One of the most common questions students who are interested in studying medicine as a graduate have is, how does the funding work? It's slightly more complicated than the standard undergraduate degrees, including standard medicine. However, the most important point is that there is graduate entry medicine funding available. In this video, I'll be covering all of the costs associated with graduate entry medicine and the funding sources that are available to remedy them. Just a word of caution though, note that all of the figures discussed in this video apply to students who are ordinarily living in England, and assume that the student is not living at home. If you're studying at London, the figures may also be slightly lower than the actual amounts that you'll be entitled to. So, let's get started. Graduates studying a dedicated 4-year graduate entry medical degree are entitled to more funding than a graduate studying a standard degree. It's worth noting that these programs are typically more competitive though, and if you have the means to fund a 5-year course, it might be a good idea to diversify and apply to a mix of programs to maximise your chances of getting an offer. Starting with tuition fees. Your tuition fee for year 1 will usually be $9,250. You'll be responsible for paying $3,465 of this to the university directly. Some universities will let you pay this termly or in instalments, but others may expect upfront. If you're eligible for a tuition fee loan from Student Finance England, you will be entitled to a non-means tested loan for the remainder of the tuition fee. Now, for the remaining years, that is years 2 to 4, the NHS bursary scheme will pay the first $3,715 towards your tuition fee. The remaining $5,535 will be covered by a tuition fee loan from Student Finance England. This means that over the entire 4 years, you will only need to pay $3,465 directly to the university. Of course, tuition fees are only really half the story though. You'll also have significant living costs. For the first year, if you're eligible for student finance, you may be eligible to take out a loan towards your maintenance costs. The first 4,422 of this loan is means tested, and the remainder is dependent on your household income. You may also be eligible for a means tested support from your university for this year. It's important to recognise that student loans companies consider any student over the age of 25 married or in full-time employment for 3 years to be an independent student. This means that your parents' household income will not be assessed for means testing, and you'll likely be awarded the full maintenance loan if your personal income is £0 for that academic year. Over years 2 to 4, the maintenance loan provided by Student Finance England is reduced to $2,534. This is non-means tested and is slightly reduced for your final year. You are also eligible for a maintenance bursary support from NHS bursary schemes. The first 1,000 of this is non-means tested. Additional money is means tested with the maximum possible grant of a 30-week year being $2,643. The majority of medical schools operate a longer academic year than this, however, and additional £84 per week is provided for any week over the 30 weeks included. You may also be entitled to other money, such as childcare allowance or dependence allowance. Now, what about students from other UK nations? Well, for Welsh students, funding for graduate entry medicine is virtually identical to that of English students, apart from you'll be living allowance from the Welsh equivalent of the NHS bursary, and that's identical to a 5th year standard medical student. This means that you can apply for an additional maintenance loan for years 2 to 4. For Scottish students, if you study on the Scott Graduate Entry Medicine programme, then your tuition fees will be fully funded. Unfortunately, for all other GEM programmes, you'll have to self-fund the tuition fee for the entire course. However, you will be eligible for a student loan to help with maintenance costs. And finally, for Northern Irish students, unfortunately, students will have to pay the full tuition fees themselves, but students are eligible for a maintenance loan from Student Finance Northern Ireland to help with living costs. So with all that in mind, let's compare it to the 5 or 6 year standard medicine programme to see how things stack up. For the 5 to 6 year standard medicine programme, your tuition fees in year 1 to 4 will usually be $9,250 per year. You'll be responsible for paying the full amount to the university directly. Some universities will let you pay this termly or in instalments again, but others might expect upfront payment. From year 5 onwards, you'll be able to apply to the NHS bursary scheme for tuition fee support. Your tuition fee will be paid in full and you will not have to pay this money back. Regarding living costs, for the first 4 years, you'll be eligible to apply to Student Finance England for a full maintenance loan. The amount that you will receive will depend on your circumstances and where you're studying. As with graduate entry medicine courses, it's important to consider the student loans company criteria for being classified as an independent student. If this applies to you, it means that your parents' household income will not be assessed for means testing, which is a good thing if you want to maximise your loan. The final part of your course will be funded by NHS bursary scheme. They will be providing a non-means tested grant of £1,000 for living costs, and additional money is available in a means tested way based on your personal circumstances. The maximum amount of bursary available is £3,191 for a 30-week year. There will be extra weeks allowance of £108 per week for any additional weeks spent studying. For students on the standard course in different nations, again there are slight changes. Funding for Welsh students is very similar to that of English students. One key difference though is that Welsh students have a living allowance identical to that of a 5th year standard medical student for the final part of their course. This means that they can apply for an additional maintenance loan for years 5 onwards. For Scottish students, you will have to self-fund tuition fees for the first 4 years. In England and Wales, this is typically £9,000 to £9,250. If you study in Scotland, you will pay £1,820 per year instead. You'll also be able to apply to SAAS Maintenance Loan Service, and for years 5 onwards, you'll be eligible to full tuition fee support and a bursary to consider your living costs from SAAS. And again, unfortunately, for students living in Northern Ireland, you will have to self-fund the full tuition fees throughout the course. Students are still eligible though for maintenance loan support from Student Finance Northern Ireland to help with their living costs. So that's everything you need to know about the funding sources available for graduate entry medicine. I appreciate that that's a lot of information to take in, so feel free to watch back this video and make a note of the costs on a piece of paper maybe yourself so you can see directly what you'll be paying and how you'll be paying for it. Thanks so much for watching.